Oh, where's Frank? Is Frank dead? R.I.P. Frank. Frank. We want to see Frank. Give us Frank. Show us Frank. In your next video, prove Frank is still alive. This is what I've been dealing with for the last few days. Hundreds, if not thousands of comments just like that. So in today's video, we're going to talk about Frank. You see, it's clear to me that there's a bit of confusion lately with this aquarium and its inhabitants, mostly my flowerhorn Frank, who's behind the wood right now. We're going to get to that in a minute. However, it is apparent that a lot of people simply don't like something they don't understand. And that is largely my fault for not being clear or concise with a lot of the information I'm providing about the flowerhorn and its situation in this aquarium. But in my defense, there's a tremendous amount going on out here in the gallery, and every video cannot be dedicated to a single fish. But for those that are not familiar with this fish, Frank is a flowerhorn that I purchased on impulse mostly. I seen him at my local fish store, one fish, two fish, and I just had to have him. He wasn't the best looking flowerhorn that they had offered, nor was he exhibiting the best traits that you would look for in a flowerhorn, but he had a whole lot of personality. I figured, why not grab this fish? We'll temporarily house him in a smaller aquarium, and then eventually the plan, unbeknownst to you guys, and I never talked about it, but I knew he would end up in the 2,000-gallon aquarium eventually. Why? Flowerhorn get big, very big, anywhere from like 8 to 12 inches, which is because of the combination of fish that a flowerhorn is made up of, which is primarily the Cyclosoma trimaculatum, or the trimac cichlid, a big, boisterous, aggressive cichlid, which is arguably the #1 fish in this hybrid. When I got him home, I added him into a small 15-gallon aquarium, eventually putting him into a 30-gallon aquarium. Now, flowerhorn tend to do a lot better in smaller, more enclosed spaces, bare bottom, no decorations, so we maintain pristine water quality, and he can't get injured on the decorations. I've gone over bare bottoms and why decorations are good or not good in certain situations with certain fish in the past. We're not going to cover that. And of course, I got mixed reviews about how I was housing him, but we have to understand that I have experience with flowerhorns and stingrays and arowana and all of the different types of fish that I've kept. So this wasn't necessarily a negative impulse buy. It was more so, I've kept this fish before, here's an opportunity to buy a pretty great fish, I'm gonna go ahead and get him. People were saying he needs decorations, he needs other tank mates, he needs a bigger tank, etc, etc, etc. But like I said, flowerhorn at first, when they're smaller, feel more secure in a smaller tank at first. But there's kind of a catch-22 here. You see, flowerhorn exhibit this extreme personality of being a personable fish in a tank with no decorations, no other fish, and in a smaller aquarium. Why? It has no real other choice but to interact with you because it's lacking that in its own environment. However, if we were to put it in a larger tank with other fish and decorations and scaped, those traits are slowly lost. Now, that's not the case with every flowerhorn, but it does happen. And at the end of the day, flowerhorn are a cichlid. Cichlid do a number of things, including being territorial. They like to create homes. They like to claim certain portions of the aquarium. Now, the goal was to add him to the 2,000-gallon aquarium when it was set up and the other fish was added. There was some worries. I was worried that the flowerhorn would attack the rays and or attack the Asian arowana. This is an extremely expensive fish, the arowana costing thousands of dollars. The rays are extremely expensive as well, whereas the flowerhorn is only like $100, $200 fish. While the cost of a fish isn't what's important to me, clearly we have to, take it into consideration. Now, some might think, well, the arowana doesn't get along with other fish. That's not entirely true. You see, when I first got him, he was in a tank with stingrays and a school of discus. Discus being arguably one of the most sensitive and least aggressive cichlid in the hobby. I have had difficulties with him getting along with other fish, but it's mostly them nipping at him in a much smaller tank. This is 2,000 gallons of water. We're playing with a whole new ball game here, though. So initially, upon adding the flowerhorn, Frank acted like Frank would. He was very interactive, and he got along for the first 24 to 48 hours. After that, Frank discovered, hey, I'm in a really big tank that's scaped and I can truly make this my home. The arowana and Frank didn't get along, but it goes both ways. What you guys are concentrating and focusing on is the fact that the arowana went after Frank once, but Frank goes after the arowana far more often. You see, Frank has made himself a home behind the rock pile here. In fact, there's a bit of a dig out where he's, primarily stays at. However, his real territory is about 20 square feet in the tank. Basically, where all of the wood is at is his. If the arowana goes behind there, Frank chases him out. Frank really only comes out nowadays to get food or sometimes he comes out when he sees me, but it's not as often as it used to be or as interactive as it used to be in a 15 or 30-gallon aquarium. Go figure, this tank is literally almost 1,000 times bigger. Of course, the fish are going to interact a lot differently. But like I said, Frank is a cichlid, and given the types of cichlids that have been combined to create this hybrid, those tend to be large, aggressive fish. Now, I added Frank in at a relatively small size to get used to the inhabitants, because one day he's going to be a big, massive, colorful fish, but he's only been in the tank for a couple of weeks. We still have to account for the fact that I'm going to plant this tank within the week. We're going to cover the wood in a lot of plants, which is going to change the dynamic of this tank and create a number of more visual blocks. I'm also going to be adding in a school of dither fish. Now, dither fish are basically a fish that, diffuse the aggression in certain fish, mainly the arowana and the flowerhorn. And this is why a school of discus worked while a flowerhorn perceivably is not working. It is working, we just don't talk about it enough. But why is everybody so protective over Frank? And some people are getting frustrated with the arowana. The arowana has been with me for years, and the arowana and rays are arguably why this tank exists, and even more so why this channel exists in the first place. Frank's only been here for a few months. People really enjoyed the fact that when he was in a smaller tank, he was extremely personable, extremely active, and he exhibited traits like a little puppy dog, which of course would happen in a smaller, bare aquarium. Then we gave him a name. We humanized him with the name Frank, which is proven to create a stronger bond with animals. The arowana, all you guys know is that he's been around for a while, he doesn't really have a name, I've had some problems with him, he's aggressive towards me, but, at the end of the day, this guy is my favorite fish of all time right now. And while I love the flowerhorn, I gotta say I'm getting a little jealous of the love that the flowerhorn is getting, but the little arowana here is getting no love. And let me put this thing into a different type of perspective. The arowana isn't a territorial fish. He believes the whole aquarium is his. In fact, he believes that not only the aquarium is his, but everything outside the aquarium is his as well. So when I come by or when I come near the tank, I'm in his territory per se, and he doesn't want me in it. Or maybe he's just curious and enjoys my presence. With that said, when I'm not around the aquarium and I monitor it through web cameras or I just set the camera up and leave it, Frank comes out and they do just fine together. It's when I come around and I'm here with the camera or I'm just sitting here, he doesn't want anybody to come near me. I'm his. And it kind of opened my eyes to him thinking he doesn't necessarily not like me. He knows that I'm his owner and we have a symbiotic relationship where, we both appreciate each other, and I think he's just being protective of me. But, him being in this much larger tank and getting to see him swim around more freely and do his own thing has truly opened my eyes to, the true relationship and bond that I have with this fish. He's not a skittish fish. I can do whatever I want, and he's not going to freak out or anything like that, unlike a lot of other fish. He just simply enjoys, an unsaid bond that we have. Or maybe I'm completely wrong and, I'm delusional because I spend too much time with fish. With all of this said, of course Frank is going to act differently in a 15-gallon aquarium and a 2,000-gallon aquarium. Let's give them time to adjust. But I can say that Frank is eating more than he ever has. He's putting on some size. He loves the entire wood structure. That's his. That covers about 20 square feet. And, some people will say, oh, that's cruel, move Frank. Show me another flowerhorn that has a surface area of 20 square feet to call their own. He's living the life in here and he absolutely loves it. And again, once we add some plants and some other fish, things will change in this aquarium, and I'm simply excited just to see all of the different interaction that I'm going to be able to have with a lot of these fish and so forth. But on the topic of fish changing, the rays when they were first added weren't as active as they once were. Now that they're in here though, they're eating twice as much, they're twice as active, and they're always out swimming around. No. But to summarize, everybody in this tank is doing just fine. If I had to, kind of narrow down who's the most aggressive and who's causing the most problems, it's Frank. The arowana is not allowed to go back there. He attacks the arowana 10 times more than the arowana shoos him off. The arowana hasn't even touched him in only once, just to kind of, establish who's who. And I think he was just mouthing him out and, curious and seeing what he was all about. But the flowerhorn is a territorial fish. He is going to get quite massive, and adding him at a relatively small size into the aquarium early is going to enable me even far higher chances of success long term. But these are the problems you face with big fish and big tanks. Sometimes things work out, sometimes you have to get creative in how you're going to help them work out, and so forth. And in my opinion, that's one of the most interesting aspects of the aquarium hobby, is because a lot of us mix fish that do not come from same locales or locations in the hobby, yet we enjoy them and we want them to get along, and sometimes it just doesn't work. A lot of the times it does. I should also quickly address the fact that many of you guys said, give Frank one of the 120s, and here's how that would play out. First and foremost, I wouldn't be able to escape the tank because he would destroy it. It'd have a background and that would be it. It wouldn't look that great. Second thing is, if I put other fish in there with him, he's going to kill them eventually. Again, this guy's going to get pretty big, and to the point of most likely outgrowing that tank eventually and me having no place to put him. Ultimately, we just need to give these fish some time to adjust to the tank. And will it eventually work? Absolutely. Sometimes when you move fish, for example, the arowana, sometimes he takes weeks, if not a couple months, to adjust. He won't even eat. The rays didn't eat for, a day or two. Frank ate right away. He's completely comfortable and adjusted to the tank. If he was, you could always see him peeking out at me. I think it's hilarious. But, if I go over to that side of the tank, he'll come out and see me. But throughout the day, if the arowana is out here and I'm out here, he doesn't want to come out, because the arowana, like I said, I think he's jealous and he doesn't want Frank to get the attention and me to be looking at him. He wants me to almost like cuddle with him. It's like he wants me to take him out of the tank and cuddle with him. But what he doesn't know is that I already have a little arowana I cuddle with at night. So ultimately, all is well in this aquarium. Frank is doing wonderfully. He loves the tank. I don't think I'd ever move him just because he enjoys it so much. And, he gets to, exhibit some cichlid traits and, truly enjoy the tank. I think things will change once we plant it. I think things will change even more once we add more fish. I'm not sure which other fish I want to add though, but I do know I want some relatively larger fish that can school together, or at least add a splash of color, or at least maybe some iridescence that do not eat plants. I'm not going to plant this tank just to give a fish a smorgasbord of food in there for them to eat. So I don't know, if you guys have any suggestions on some fish that I could add, let me know in the comment section below. But to give you an idea of where my head is at, I've thought about some tinfoil barbs, which would probably eat the plants. I've thought of different types of species of silver dollars, which would probably eat the plants. And but I do need a fish that can, grow to a relatively large size, that will be an omnivorous fish, meaning that it will probably eat whatever I offer the tank, because I'm the type that feeds the tank one type of food, and the fish all eat that same food, and that's one of my strategies to keeping a tank simple and easier to take care of. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Also, the arowana just celebrated his 5-year birthday 2 days ago, and I never did anything for it. However, I hope to be able to make a video about him and give you guys an idea of where he came from, his time with me in the hobby, and how he got to the size he is, and some of the things he's gone through, as well as reveal what his name is soon. So if any of this interests you and you're not subscribed to this channel yet, I highly suggest you do, because I've got a lot of really interesting videos coming out shortly. I have been making more videos than is typical for the last few months. I've been making 3 videos a week, but every once in a while I'm pumping out a bonus video, making it 4 videos a week, and I am really enjoying simply showing you guys what I'm most interested in and excited about at the time, and I hope you guys are as well.